It's not free stuff. This is just an absolutely brilliant post that started out over at US Uncut. And in fact, I tweeted this out on Friday or Saturday because I was so impressed by this. I thought this is just a brilliant article. And the author of the suggests, first of all, starts out, saying, this hit on Bernie is like, oh, it's not, he wants to give away free stuff. And here's what the stuff that he's talking about would cost. He's talking about a Medicare for All program that's $1.38 trillion, a new WPA that's $200 billion a year for 5 years, free college, $75 billion, paid family leave, $31 billion, total annual cost, $1.49 trillion. Okay, so it sounds like a lot of money, $1.49 trillion. Oddly enough, the list that I'm about to read you adds up to $1.46 trillion. And these are the corporate tax breaks, allowing Wall Street to trade tax free. It's costing us $352 billion. Extension of the Bush tax cuts for the wealthy is costing us $277 billion. Government contracts for the 200 wealthiest corporations costing us $176 billion. Keeping the cap on Social Security, we're leaving on the table $120 billion. Money lost to corporate tax havens, $100 billion. Wall Street welfare, $83 billion. Corporate welfare in the omnibus spending bill, $65 billion. Surveillance industrial complex, $52 billion. Tax breaks for wealthy investors, $51 billion. The war in Afghanistan, $35 billion. Oil company subsidies, $37 billion. Tax breaks for rich brats, $27 billion. New nuclear missiles, $18 billion. Ford-class aircraft carrier, $15 billion. Federal war on drugs, $15 billion. F-35, $10 billion. Foreign war slush fund, $8 billion. Walmart subsidies, $7.8 billion. Tax breaks for CEO bonuses, $7 billion. And keeping the Guantanamo Bay Detention Center open, $454 million. So, it's not like, geez, we don't have the resources, or we've got to spend money on these things. No. And some of the issues that the Sanders campaign has raised, that now increasingly the Clinton campaign is raising, and God bless her for it, and we need more of it. Universal health care, federal intervention in Flint, Michigan, the minimum. This is just a list from Bernie's last speech, actually. This is from his speech at Eastern Michigan University. Minimum wage, raising the minimum wage, dealing with wealth inequality, reducing our jail population, funding Planned Parenthood, protecting same-sex marriage. It's under assault now in various states. Having paid family and medical leave. By the way, did you see Chipotle? Chipotle's been dealing with this crisis of contaminated food. They are now... I've on this program, I've talked so many times about how, paid sick leave is really an important thing for a million reasons. I mean, it's, one person comes to work sick and then a bunch of people get sick, and so productivity suffers. But if that person comes to work sick in a restaurant and their sickness contaminates food, then an entire community can suffer. So Chipotle is starting a paid sick leave program. Anyhow, paid sick leave. Federal jobs program, child care, trade policy, prosecute Wall Street offenders, marijuana policy, voting rights, Supreme Court appointment, college finance reform, free college tuition, tax on Wall Street speculation, climate change, and the Iraq War. These are, numerous topics, and they're topics that increasingly the entire Democratic Party is getting around. There's this thing that was originally hatched. It's called the Overton window. Joe Overton came up with this idea. He died in 2003, a young man. He was born in 1960. And he worked for the Mackinac Center for Public Policy, which is a right-wing think tank in Michigan. But basically what he said is that the political viability of a particular idea depends on where it falls within his window. And right smack dab in the middle is what becomes policy. Just a little bit off from what's smack dab in the Overton window is typically what's popular, but it's not yet policy. A little farther outside, or closer to the edge of the window, what's sensible, and a little closer to the edge of the window, what's acceptable. Then outside the window is what's radical or unthinkable. Well, the fact of the matter is that a lot of these ideas, free college for everybody in the United States, free health care. These were considered radical or unthinkable just 9 months ago. And now the Sanders campaign has brought these into the mainstream, and Democratic politicians all over the country are figuring out. Well, I mean, I think it's almost kind of funny, the article I shared with you earlier, where the authors were talking about how Democratic politicians, Steve Israel, and whatnot, Democratic politicians are trying to figure out how to replicate Bernie. Well, it's really simple. Just run on Bernie's issues. Bernie's been saying from the very beginning, just take these issues. If somebody would talk about these issues, in fact, he said he was not going to get into the race.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
Those of you who have been listening to this program for more than 9 months know that before he got into the race, he kept saying on this show, if Elizabeth Warren or somebody like that gets into the race, I'm not going to. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.